but we know exactly how they get their things here, how they get the drugs here, fentanyl, cocaine.
At an hour when most of Michigan was deep asleep, FBI and DHS investigators unlocked a door inside Detroit Metropolitan Airport and walked straight into a secret operation that defied belief. At the center of it all, a leader whose loyalty belonged far from Michigan. But that was just the beginning. The most disturbing discovery was still ahead.
We will treat you like we have treated Al-Qaeda. We will find you, we will map your networks, we will hunt you down, and we will kill you.
November 20th, 2025, 4:35 a.m. This was the moment that would forever change Michigan. As dawn approached, teams from the FBI and DHS converged on the operations wing of Detroit Metro Airport. They were not about to conduct a blind operation. Instead, they had stormed a private office belonging to the airport's director, Evelyn Markham, one woman whose name would soon shock an entire system. At 4:40 a.m., the operations leader gave the green light, and officers moved with precision. In less than 45 seconds, the door of the office swung open. What the agents found inside surpassed their suspicions. They initially expected to find evidence pertaining to corruption, yet what they found made even the veterans among them silent with shock. Inside the office were stacks of cash amounting to a whopping $72 million. In addition to that, they found secretive encrypted drives, airport ID badges issued to people with no legitimate ties to the airport, and routing codes that did not belong on any standard manifest. All the evidence pointed away from mere corruption. What had been uncovered was a carefully built criminal network. Now the question was, what was this network all about? As the agents went over the seized evidence, they eventually came to the dreaded conclusion. The airport director was more than just a corrupt official. Under her watch and authority, Detroit Metro Airport had been transformed into a covert entry point for a foreign cartel. And this was not just an ordinary cartel. It was one of the biggest, most notorious, and ruthless networks globally. Jalisco New Generation Cartel, popularly known as the CJ&G Cartel. Among the cartel's circle, the hub had been assigned the codename La Puerta del Norte, Spanish for the North Gate. This was not just a poetic nickname. It pointed to a much larger plan. This was the northern launch point for the cartel, a gateway for moving narcotics into Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, and even deeper into the upper United States, and as far as southern Canada. What was even more shocking is that the director was not acting alone. Her accomplice shocked everyone. Investigators soon discovered that her teenage son named Adrian was also part of this ring. The 19-year-old boy had been quietly slipped into night shift logistics duties. Surveillance footage would also later show him directing cargo pallets, communicating with ground crews, and coordinating deliveries. Cameras later showed blackout windows exactly at the moments when there were maintenance reports and CJ&G cartel flight arrivals. Additionally, messages between Adrian and the CJ&G cartel were discovered at that exact moment, proving he functioned as a coordinator. This mother-son duo had accepted to abandon national loyalty and instead help one of the world's largest cartels to build its own supply chain right inside the United States. This was pure betrayal. By the time the agents backed out of that office, they were 100% certain that this was a full-scale infiltration from within. Someone entrusted with public safety had decided to turn that trust into a network for drugs, and the airport was her playground. For 4 years, Detroit Metro Airport functioned like a perfectly oiled machine. From the look of things, it seemed to only serve travelers, airlines, and the state. Yet behind the scenes, it was quietly powering a drug pipeline so sophisticated that agents later admitted they almost missed it entirely. On tracing the pattern, they discovered that it all began with 50 cargo flights. All of them were arrivals and had been strangely slipped into the schedule with barely a ripple, each of them masked behind vague paperwork. We're talking about manifests with freight totals that defied physics and routing codes that traced back to regions in Mexico known for cartel activity. To the ordinary eye, these might have passed off as accidental mistakes, but to the investigators, they were deliberate signs, breadcrumbs left only for the people who knew how to read them. The flights were only the first phase of the pipeline. To make the operation run, Markham needed manpower right inside the airport. These are the people she could count on to move crates, bypass scanners, and access doors that the public would never notice. And that's how 18 individuals with suspicious resumes and no aviation background ended up in roles that required the highest level of clearance. To conceal all these, she listed them as night shift hires. But in reality, these were CJ&G cartel members that were in the cartel's payroll. Their sole mission? Moving drugs without leaving a fingerprint. Upon landing, the cargo was unloaded straight from the aircraft into secure storage rooms, areas that Markham controlled through her authority as airport director. She coordinated for trucks contracted through shell companies to roll in and out under the guise of routine cargo activity. Each of these trucks was assigned a different part of Michigan's distribution chain, including Detroit, Ann Arbor, Flint, and Grand Rapids. These 4 cities have become the backbone of a statewide drugs web that funneled staggering quantities of drugs, about 3 tons of meth, 1.5 tons of cocaine, and almost 500,000 fentanyl tablets. Meanwhile, the cartel had also come up with a system to launder the proceeds obtained from the illegal trade. Among the evidence seized from Markham's office were invoices labeled aviation consulting, donations made to non-existent non-profits, and payments made to transport, storage, and logistics companies that barely had office space. In all of these, the cartel had managed to launder about $127 million, all of it disguised as legitimate business. By now it was clear that the CJ&G cartel had managed to entrench itself deep inside the American system. Subscribe now so you don't miss how federal agents turned that realization into the most explosive counter-infiltration strike Michigan has ever seen. What happened next will make everything we have revealed so far feel like the calm before the storm. November 22, 2025 would go down in Michigan's history as the night everything changed. This was the night when the agents finally made the decision to move against the CJ&G cartel. The moment was so tense that those involved claimed it did not feel like law enforcement responding to a drug case, but like the state bracing for an invasion. Then, at 10:20 p.m., as the rest of the city was going to sleep, teams assembled in dimly lit staging zones across Detroit, Flint, Grand Rapids, and Ann Arbor. At 10:25 p.m., DHS official Michael Rohr issued a chilling directive over the comms. This is not a drug raid, this is a counter-infiltration mission. The operation was codenamed Operation Wolverine Shield and intended to take back the airport from the control of the cartel. It deployed nearly 1,000 federal personnel in one synchronized strike, including tactical aviation teams, FBI field units, DHS rapid response squads, and the hostage rescue team. At exactly 10:30 p.m., the raids erupted almost simultaneously. In Detroit, agents stormed what seemed like an abandoned logistics building near the airport perimeter. Inside, they found a fully functional processing hub. The team used explosive breaching charges to blow open reinforced entries, sparking a firefight as armed operatives scrambled to destroy crates marked with aviation routing codes, manifests, and shipment markings that could easily expose the cartel's entire trafficking network. Within minutes, the team had neutralized any human threat, and the warehouse floor was littered with seized cargo and disabled servers still holding valuable encrypted data. Over in Flint, the confrontation took a different turn. As the team approached its target, an isolated aircraft hangar, cartel-operated drones suddenly rose into the air, jamming radio frequencies and disrupting tactical channels. It was as though the cartel had been tipped off to an imminent raid, or was just ever ready for such an eventuality. However, this was not enough to stop the raid. Armored vehicles pushed forward, battering through steel-fortified doors, while agents advanced under the cover of ballistic shields. Once inside, they discovered modified aircraft components and night cycle trafficking kits. Needless to say, these were specialized tools that the cartel used to load, conceal, and reroute shipments during late-night cargo cycles. They helped in making illicit flights look like routine airport operations. In Grand Rapids, a nightway pursuit unfolded as a convoy attempted to flee with smuggled cargo. However, it was too late, as federal boxes quickly boxed them in while helicopters used thermal imaging to track a truck that had managed to evade the raid team. A number of operatives managed to escape on foot, but within a few minutes, they had been arrested. Then, in Ann Arbor, agents targeted a quiet office suite tucked inside a commercial tech park. From the outside, the property looked like a startup workspace and raised zero suspicion. But inside, the team uncovered what the cartel had been using as a digital command node. This is where servers with encrypted traffic logs, flight modifications, and internal airport access data were housed. 2 operatives also attempted to wipe entire databases, triggering an auto-lock system for the racks. Forensic specialists had to be called in fast to freeze the shutdown sequence and preserve terabytes of intel that would help map out the cartel's movements across the state. As the 3 other towns experienced physical battles, Ann Arbor experienced a race to capture the cartel's cyber footprint before it vanished into digital smoke. By the time the operation came to an end at 11:35 p.m., 32 locations had been raided, resulting in the arrests of 67 cartel members, 9 corrupt officials, 4.3 tons of drugs, and $138 million in assets. And in the days that followed, digital forensic teams uncovered a maze of corruption stretching far beyond Michigan. They found evidence that CJ&G had profiled, groomed, bribed, or threatened dozens of airport employees into cooperation. Documents also revealed plans to replicate this secret pipeline through airports in Ohio, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. The discovery sent shockwaves through Washington, as DHS ordered the most extensive aviation security review since 9/11. On its side, TSA scrambled to reevaluate how cargo was screened nationwide. When the dust settled after Operation Wolverine Shield, the real battle shifted from the streets to the FBI's Digital Analysis Division. Inside one room, agents faced a mountain of electronic evidence. More than 100 seized devices, each holding fragments of a criminal network that had operated in plain sight for years. The task ahead was to carefully dissect all of them in an effort to reconstruct the cartel's hidden infrastructure and dismantle it once and for all. Among the extracted files was a directory the agents began calling the Ledger. It contained 48 detailed profiles of airport employees that were on the cartel's radar and who were about to be approached to further ease the movement of drugs through the airport. From loading supervisors to night shift security and baggage handlers, each employee was carefully selected based on their access, vulnerabilities, and how easily their salaries made them pursuable. Markham transformed Michigan Airport into a sophisticated cartel network, which was so efficient that CJ&G was already preparing to integrate this network in other states. Documentation revealed that there were already plans to expand in Ohio, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, legal action started hitting swiftly. First, Evelyn Markham faced a barrage of charges: conspiracy, drugs trafficking, corruption, and airport system tampering. Then came her son, Adrian, who was now officially considered to be a manipulated bystander. He was officially charged as an active participant and not an accessory. A few other cartel operatives were also charged with drugs trafficking. In the meantime, public outrage seemed to intensify by the day, as residents demanded answers on how such an extensive cartel operation had gone undetected for that long. Michigan's governor, Gretchen Whitmer, also joined in and demanded a federal investigation into how such an operation had thrived inside a state institution. Community leaders equally voiced the question haunting families across the region: how many overdose deaths, disappearances, and gang escalations could be traced back to Markham's pipeline? In the end, the question that still hung in the air was, if one airport director could turn a major US hub into a cartel gateway right in the open, what? And how many other doors across America might already be unlocked?